On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk ad-supported streaming, Crestron sustainability, and content calendars. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek. This is ResiWeek episode 429, Content Calendars. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matthew Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by two of my longtime friends. First, we have Steve Greenblatt. He's the CEO of Control Concepts. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Thank you for being here. Then we've got my good friend, Mr. Jeremy Glowacki. He's the executive editor of Residential Tech Today. How you doing, Jeremy?
Doing well also. And sorry, I have to join you from my phone once again because I have an old computer that won't agree with the setup here. But bear with me without the fancy mic.
You look fabulous, so it's fine.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, we are going to kick this off and just mention off the top that CEDIA Expo 2024, the registration for that show is now open. So you can go over to, I believe it's cediaexpo.com and register, sign up for all of the educational trainings. Steve, are you teaching?
To be determined.
To be determined. Steve might be teaching. I am not teaching. But you can see everything as far as the schedule, the layout, that is most likely firmed up at this point, and get excited for that show. All right, let's kick this off with a story that comes to us from CE Pro. A report finds that 50% of U.S. households are regularly using ad-supported streaming apps. They're also seeing an increase in video consumption across U.S. households each week. I'm going to gather that, kind of reading between the lines here, that part of that increase is due to the massive increase of viewing on mobile devices, et cetera, with some of the free ad-supported services and ad-based video on demand services that are, so prevalent on mobile. Steve, let me start with you on this. When we're looking at reports like this and we're seeing, again, just a continual increase in streaming, et cetera, does that affect the way that we design systems or program systems in any way, shape, or form? Or is it just another or different source potentially?
I think we're going to see, and we have already seen more of an influence of smart devices where they have the ability to either load applications whether it's Netflix or YouTube and things of that nature, or they're built in. And what that does is it means you have less components and you have less wiring and you have more influence from either the display that you're viewing from, or maybe some other device that is serving that information. And if you're looking at it from a mobile device, that's even less of a system design, unless you're planning on sending that mobile device to a display. But that would seem to defeat the purpose. So I think that the main thing is a simplification, but also more reliance on smarter devices that can run applications and also have flexibility to not be limited to the applications that it comes with, but to be able to add more as those streaming services evolve.
Yeah, that's a good point. Jeremy, one of the things I found interesting on here was the fact that they found 50% of people are consuming video on, again, that mobile device, which I think is adding to the amount of hours streamed on a weekly basis, but also changing the way that media is being consumed. To Steve's point, I know last week I was working on a site and had golf running in the background on my mobile because we were in a project where there honestly was no power, and I still wanted to have golf running in the background because I like golf. Is there any way that we can address or manage or deal with even the mobile increase, or does that just come down to network design?
Well, I mean, I think that obviously having good Wi-Fi is a key for those who want to look at their device in the house. A lot of times I think people just want that flexibility where they're having multiple screens going at once. That happened to me the other day. You'll appreciate that I have committed to the New York Yankees season this year. They seem to be
Thank you,
enjoyable
sir.
to watch. So last
We're getting
year
there.
I was giving them about a month, and then injuries hit, and I said, you know what, I can't subscribe to MLB.TV. I just don't want that frustration. So I subscribed. I'm watching the Yankees do well, and it was the opening or second game of the playoffs for the Pacers, my hometown NBA team, and I look at it and it's only on NBA.TV, which I have never in my life subscribed to because I have a local team. And so I subscribed to that, put the Yankees game up on Apple TV, get the device going. I go through the quick approval. I say, do not track me, do not do this, do not do that. Apparently, I tricked the app into not knowing that I was in the local market, which I should not have been allowed to watch the game, actually, which is interesting. But that's what I was doing. I'm watching one thing and I was flipping back and forth. Um, I'd prefer a bigger screen experience, of course, and in this industry, I think we all kind of want that. But I do like, and I do think a lot of people want to have something where they can like keep an eye on the game, or my kids watch entire series on their phones. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like they just don't need the large screen experience. I believe that whether you're streaming from like five 5G or whatever it is, or Wi-Fi, generally it's going to be a pretty good experience unless you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. But I believe, the key would be the Wi-Fi for the home for sure to have that option. And I think people just want flexibility, honestly. And more and more people are cutting the cord. I'm always surprised when I even see stories like this and think, oh, wow, there's people that are still watching cable, have cable packages, that just seems so old fashioned to me. But, it's a tough habit to break when you're used to channel surfing and the convenience of that, despite the price. And this a la carte kind of process of what you want to subscribe to and watch. And we're getting back to it's paid TV, it's back to commercial TV, a lot of it. So you're not getting rid of the commercials so much, and except for maybe Netflix, but or Disney, that type of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because up here, and I feel like you're calling me old fashioned because I still have cable.
Well, you also
Um,
are in Canada where you
but
don't have the
I
options.
know we don't have as many. That's correct. But even on Prime up here, as a subscriber who's already paying for Prime, they've now started inserting ads in almost every show that we watch, and there's no option to go without those. So that's interesting. All right, let's change topics for a second. This comes to us from Residential Tech Today. Crestron commits to further sustainability advancements and to a SAVE partnership. SAVE is sustainability in AV, where they're joining as a sustaining sponsor. Um, Jeremy, let me start with you on this. Crestron, like most of the companies in our space, are aware and continuing to do more things to kind of limit their environmental impact and increase their sustainability, both in the workplace and in the product, et cetera, that they're using. What does it mean when you see, again, a big company like Crestron, who is actively not only promoting this, but working with Save to, again, continue to promote this down the road? How does that affect the industry?
Well, I think they're setting they're being good citizens. They're being good role models for the rest of the industry when they do this. And you can be cynical and say that it's like lip service or marketing hype, but just putting some of the effort into this, and I think having this like third party sort of say that yes, you hit these milestones, or are have a baseline of accomplishments. I think that's a good step. And I mean, just having product longevity alone and having that goal and the reputation of the consumer electronics business really is that disposable electronics kind of concept. And it's that's one of the worst things is just what ends up in landfill. That's
Mhm.
products that aren't built to last. Now you try to build something with longevity. I think that's a step in the right direction. The packaging part of it, minimizing the plastic, minimizing the non-biodegradable packing peanuts, trying to pack with things that can be recycled, simple boxes, not having, a lot of extra printing on them. I think those are great steps. And I've started to be able to do a little bit of product review recently and some of the packaging I get with the biodegradable peanuts that, like I mentioned off line here, that I reached in with wet hands by accident and they started to kind of dissolve on me. And I actually, while we were sitting here, I was looking at what makes biodegradable peanuts, or what are they made of? And I guess it's cornstarch and wheat. So they literally are biodegradable. So that's great. And I think those simple steps, now making longer lasting products, not a simple step, but that involves a lot of effort and investment. But the packing part of it, I think, and minimizing waste, I think, is a great thing to start with.
Yeah, that's a great point. Steve, as integrators, what's kind of our role in sustainability? Should we be specifying, you know, products from companies that are better in the sustainability side than not? Where's the bar for that?
Like most business, it's driven by the clients. If it's something that's important to clients and it's something that the clients are asking for and is going to be a differentiator in their mind and is something that they are looking for in either a manufacturer or an integrator, then that by all means that should be a driving force, and it should be something that requires adoption of new behaviors or processes or practices. However, if it's not something that matters to clients, then I think that it's questionable because it could be adding to the cost of doing business, which could cost the clients more money and or could impact pricing. So I think it is certainly something that for those who believe in it and for those who are looking to support the cause, very important. And as Jeremy said, I think it's something that is a good practice as a citizen. However, I think that from a business standpoint, you have to really understand what your audience is before you're going to progress down this road, unless it's truly important to you as an integrator.
Hey, I have a little anecdote about an integrator. I worked with a local integration firm several times for some projects here, and one of their employees, one of their techs, had as his own just like personal passion a recycling kind of program where when I swapped out some in-ceiling speakers, he took the old in-ceilings which were still in good shape. He wasn't going to sell them or anything like that. He literally was going to dismantle them into their component parts. And what he could recycle, he would recycle, and he would try to find a home for every bit and piece of these
Right.
electronics. And later on, I had an old receiver that had run its course, and it was so in such bad shape it wasn't going to be something I could resell. And I called this guy. I said, "Hey, would you help me out? And do your thing where you take this thing apart." And literally, would just take it back to his house. He had his own little workshop, and he would unscrew everything and separate it out. And then when he had enough to like take to whatever center he was going to, he would do that. It was just his ways. Like I got so tired of seeing things going into the landfill. As much as we try to do the right thing, it just it was an inefficiency. So I thought that was really cool. One guy doing something pretty good for the earth, but
Yeah.
hopefully there's others that have that kind of program as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've in my company, we've always had as long as I can remember, we've had a system where anything a client didn't want, we would pull out, and we would take, we did not get into the breaking it down part, but we would take it to an electronics recycler, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And we never charged for it. We also never promoted it, because that's a whole other can of worms. But there is also an aspect of, there was a conversation that was happening on Twitter on Sunday about sustainability, mainly in the corporate sense, but the question of essentially leases for equipment had come up. And when we were working in education, gosh, probably 15 years ago, as a vertical, we would routinely pull equipment out of essentially, like, corporate environments, clean them, reload them, reset everything, and then sell them or donate them back to the education market. That whole industry has significantly gone away due to privacy concerns. Is there anything that integrators can do in that, with that in mind, right? Of how to help clients recycle their equipment properly, but also understand the privacy concerns that a lot of corporations and even homeowners sometimes have over electronics that they may own, that they don't want just randomly going into some box that's going to go somewhere and be dismantled.
I think it's similar to the way you handle computers. I have whole stacks of computers that if I want to take the time to clean them and to wipe the data, that I'm comfortable giving them to people and giving them to having other people use them, because many of them are perfectly fine to use. But it is there is probably a business opportunity there for people for almost like 1-800-GOT-JUNK, where they take what your retired electronics and then rehome them, but do it in a way that is done safe and secure.
Hey, Matt, when we were talking offline, you were mentioning a local franchise business that has to swap out their equipment every so many months, and they require them to basically destroy the equipment because of that privacy concern. I guess my question would be, how are do they have to like literally do it in front of some representative of that franchise to prove that it's been destroyed? It seems like a tough thing to enforce.
No, it is a tough thing to enforce, but we've come across that multiple times with a variety of different clients who typically they want you to sign something, right? Stating that you are destroying these, that they're going into a shredder, so that all the data can be managed. And then on our end, whenever we were dealing with that, we would typically make sure that we had an insurance rider that covered that data destruction, so that if something that we took that was supposed to be destroyed somehow made it's got into the wrong hands, that we recovered. Because that's a really, really tough market to sell to deal with. But a lot of times they would contract companies to come in after we had removed it. It would still be removed, put in, like a massive bucket in a safe and secured location on site. And then they would hire a third party company that specifically deals in, essentially like hard drive destruction to come in, and it's securely done on site. You can monitor it the same way the shredding companies, the paper shredding companies, show up with the big truck. And if you really want to, you can watch them take your, enclosed bucket to the truck, and they put it in the truck, and it goes up and goes through the shreddy thingy, and you can see all the little pieces. There are services that do the same thing for electronics.
Okay.
Very few companies, other than some of the banking firms that we have worked with, went that far, but it was the typical practice now is that you're either not allowed to remove anything from the premises electronic wise, or if you are contracted to remove them, you're signing something saying that you will destroy them.
Okay.
And we've played both sides of that. And it's somewhat disappointing to see how often we have a stack of stuff at one of our warehouses right now. It's perfectly good network equipment that is current and it's slated for destruction. And you cannot convince me, as someone who knows networking fairly well, that there's anything that's proprietary on that network, on those devices at all, that again couldn't easily be wiped in any way, shape, or form. But I digress. All right, let's hit our last story of the day. This comes to us from Residential Systems and a good friend of the show, Mr. Henry Clifford. Do you have a content calendar? Go read through it. He gives essentially 12 focused campaign ideas around seasonal and chronological milestones over the course of the year. Lots of great information that, again, it's so simple that you'd think we know this, but I guarantee you that most of us aren't implementing this properly. Steve, when you see this, this is honestly, this might be the best content calendar concept that I've seen put on paper before, due to just the simplicity of it on a 12-month cycle. How do you go about properly, utilizing something like this in a proactive manner?
I think it's a great way to stay focused in marketing, and I think that that marketing is an area that I think it doesn't get the focus that it deserves in the industry. I know that it's something that's important to me, and even so, I don't do as much of it as I would like in my business. And but having a tool like this, really, it's similar to any project planning. You have to break down your initiative into steps, and by having themes or building around seasonality, or building into specific messaging, maybe it's about a trade show or so forth. It allows you to not get distracted, and it gives you I think a way to be able to maintain an effort and say, here, this is what we plan to accomplish, and we've accomplished it. So I love this idea, and as you said, it's very simple, and it's very doable in the way that Henry put it together. And I think that for anybody who is looking to invest in marketing, it's a great first step and a good way to get started, and probably have get some effective marketing done with not a tremendous amount of effort.
Yeah, that's a good point. Jeremy, Steve mentioned the investment aspect. I think we're at an age where marketing seems so easily attainable, yet also so dramatically complicated. And just continuing to evolve and be more and more complicated. How do you go about trying to determine whether you want to just, kind of dabble your foot in and just do some basics versus going out and hiring somebody to help manage or create, even using, an example like this, but going out and actually implementing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it runs a gamut in the industry of companies that have, integration companies that have the oldest, clunkiest looking websites, and you can't believe that they're in the technology business and that's what they have as their representative. And you've got folks who are hiring professionals, like the ones that come to mind right away are Ron Callis at One Firefly has a great, operation there. It's definitely something I think that isn't cheap to invest in. Another one is Kat Toomey, Catalyzing. She's a great one as well. Great marketing chops. Really knows the industry. Both of them really know the industry, have worked in the industry. And they're going to create a content plan for you if you hire someone like that, where they're doing blogs on every couple weeks. They're keeping your site kind of engaged and active, and social media as well, to drive leads as much as possible to your site. I think that on a minimum, you should have somewhere where you're able to create a blog or something where you're showing your expertise in the industry. somewhere that's going to draw clicks for people who want to read and understand in a simple way, not super techy, but just opportunities, case study type stuff. That at a minimum, I think, is what you need. I look at this and it's so well thought out. I know he's got somebody that's in this role, someone who's responsible for this content, that this is literally their calendar that they're supposed to kind of keep up with. So, I mean, if you're able to have someone on staff who is that social media person, that marketing person, maybe they have multiple hats that they wear. So they're also a technical role. Cause maybe this isn't a 100% marketing, situation. Integration companies need this, but at the same time, depending on your size, may not be able to afford to have someone just dedicated to this. But at least to have the plan and someone who's in charge of it. And with the addition of AI, I hate to say this, but you can build stuff from AI and make it better. That does help speed up the efficiency part of it. You've got the ideas here, now build off of them, add your own specifics to it, and it might not be as time consuming as you think. But I think having the bones of the good website to start with is essential. Like, redo your website if you haven't in like 10 years. Like that's the main starting point. And then you build off of that and figure out what your best social media outlets are for driving this, and get a good newsletter together too. Cause I think sending out a newsletter to past clients is also a really good engagement tool with these topics.
I'll add also, once you get through one cycle, a lot of this could be repurposed too. So it's
don't I know how that works as a media person. That's absolutely a great point, Steve.
Let's leave it there. Thank you both so much for joining us. Jeremy, if people want to connect with you, learn more about residential tech today, find your podcast, where can they do that?
Start with restechtoday.com, our website, and you can find the podcast there. And look for me on LinkedIn, and trying to post story leads there as well, or headlines and stuff. So let me know if you have a good story to tell, and be great to engage with the industry.
I love it. Steve, my friend, thank you for joining us. If people want to connect with you, learn more about learn more about Control Concepts, find your podcast, where can they do that? Or your podcasts, your multiple shows.
Sure.
Where can they find those?
First off, here at AVNation, State of Control podcast with my partner, Rich Fregosa. Check that out. I also do another podcast that answers some of the common questions and covers topics in a little bit of a different format on programming and control with James King, called Ask the Programmer. For my company, you can find us at controlconcepts.net, and I'll also be at Infocom coming up, as well as CEDIA, and love to talk to people about API integration.
I love it. Thanks again for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter or X, or really any other social platform. But more importantly, please visit avnation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek,
the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.